Well, welcome everybody to episode 104 of the Canadian Talk podcast. Today I've got another good guest on the show. He comes from, where do you come from?
I'm in Victoria area, so like the capital of BC on Vancouver Island there.
Oh, no way. Yuppieville.
Yeah,
He comes from Yuppieville.
yeah, it is.
So,
I'm out of town. I'm in the farmland kind of area, just north of
yeah.
Victoria, so not downtown anymore. That's
Yeah,
good.
very cool. So yeah, it's Steve Dawson. You used to be Steve Dawson Comedy, I thought,
Yeah,
but now you're Steve Dawson Writes on Instagram.
that's
So
correct. Yeah, I
everybody, you
changed
can
it
go.
pretty recently.
Yeah, you can go and find him there. And but today, man, admittedly, I have to say to you, this is probably the least prepared I've ever been for a podcast ever.
Hey,
As
no
much as
problem.
I like your stuff, there's a blizzard going on right now in Saskatoon, so there's like 2 feet of snow. I can't even barely get out the door of my house. So I haven't done shit to prepare because I was digging my truck out of being stuck. So we're gonna have to just fly by the seat of our pants today. Is that all right with you?
That's totally fine. Let's freewheel it. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I don't know. I just took 100 milligram edible, so we'll see if I don't die in the middle of this podcast. I'm also doing a NyQuil challenge here. I drank half a bottle of NyQuil, and we'll see if I fall asleep during the podcast. I don't know.
The
No,
timer's on. Yeah, sounds good.
yeah. No, I'm just kidding. So okay, so some of the first questions I got for you would be kind of like
Mm.
along the lines of, so do you consider yourself a comedian, or are you more of a comedy writer, or give me a little bit of an understanding of that?
Yeah, well, I have done stand-up comedy. I performed it. Haven't done it for about a year or so now. Just a lot of stuff in my life going on. I can't really dedicate my time to it at the moment, but I'm definitely
Yeah.
going to be doing it a lot in the future. And
Okay. Well, I
yeah,
mean, I think that disqualifies you. I think we might have to stop the podcast. You're off.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
you're
yeah, yeah.
disqualified.
Okay. Yeah.
End
uh,
it. Sorry.
no, that's the thing, but that's also going back to the Instagram handle. That's why I changed it recently. Is not I'm not giving up on comedy. I'd still love to do it, but I also have been really getting back into writing, which I've been doing a lot more throughout the last like 12 years or so, or even longer. That I started writing in like 2011, and I've been writing ever since. So a lot of my kind of creative career has been to do with writing. And I found that Stephen Dawson comedy was great, but it was also kind of limiting. I wanted to kind of expand it. I like all these different art forms and things like that. I do quite a bit of different ones and things like that. So I found that Steve Dawson Writes best kind of encapsulates, and it's more of an umbrella term for all the different things I do. And even I have a new short story that's going to be published in December on the 1st there, and it's a funny story. Like it's humor writing kind of thing. So
Nice.
yeah, I'm excited to have that. But like I find that it's I like having the different formats. Like stand-up comedy is really fun to do.
So
And
real quick, if I could just interject
yeah,
real quick,
please,
sorry.
yeah,
Um,
no,
so you're a writer. My first couple questions, rapid fire
mm,
at you. See how you can do with rapid fire.
sure.
How old are you? And like, do you have any education in writing? And what do you prefer to write? Comedy, or what's your favorite thing to write?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm 34. Uh,
I'm 32.
Short-term memory. Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. Was that 92 or
Getting
91 or?
old. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
92. July
yeah,
9th.
yeah.
When's your birthday?
March 7th. Yeah,
March
yeah.
7th. Okay. I just want to make sure that my guys can steal your identity later.
Yeah,
That's the
exactly. I'll
plan.
give you
This is all just a
same
ruse
number.
to steal identities, man. I sell them to China. Dude, you can make money.
Yeah,
Eventually, I'll
totally.
get your organs, but I got to get a few more things from you, and then I can figure out where you're at. I don't know
We'll
if I
get
can
there.
get you in Yuppieville though. You guys got some
Yeah.
pretty big yards and shit and big dogs.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've
I'm
got a
just
little
kidding.
dog.
No, Victoria is beautiful, beautiful place in Canada. So you were on the island then?
Yeah, I actually have you
Can,
ever been out this area before?
can I tell you a quick story?
Sure.
So I've never been to Victoria Island. I've been to Vancouver a little bit. I went on a trip in
Mhm.
a camper van once, and I stayed there
Cool.
for about a week and stuff, and stayed at one of the beaches there on the ocean. I don't know. There was like a free shower and stuff. I was using that. My camper van didn't have a shower
Mm.
in it. Um, so my story, anyway. I only experience I have with Victoria is I dated a girl for a little while who was from there. She was in toxicology here at the University of Saskatchewan,
Oh.
and she was an interesting person. Here comes the hook of it. So the reason she had moved and the reason she had money to move and go to university and things like that was her mother killed her father with a hatchet, hit him in the head with a hatchet, and murdered him. What do you think about that? Isn't
Wow,
that fucking
I didn't know
wild?
those. I, as far as money making schemes, I haven't thought of that one. That's for sure. But
Yeah, I don't know if it was yeah, it wasn't a money making scheme. I don't know. Yeah, her mom, I think, is
wow.
still alive. She might be in jail or something. But
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know too much about the whole story. But basically, yeah, I met this girl, and I don't know. She was really into ketamine, and she was like she was in toxicology. Like, so I don't know.
Yeah,
She was into
exactly.
substances of
Knows her
some
stuff,
kind of
I guess.
shit.
Yeah,
I don't know. Somebody was poisoning somebody in her family. That I don't know. But
that's wild.
yeah, axe murderer mother. Her mother was an axe murderer. And yeah, dude, as soon as I found that out, like I was hanging out with her because I was like kind of
Mm.
interested in her. As soon as I found out her mom was an axe murderer, I was like, I think, I think I gotta go. I gotta go get some cigarettes. Like, and I was gone, dude. Crazy, crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm originally from a smaller island in between Vancouver Island and Vancouver called Salt Spring. If you've ever heard of it before, it's a very, very lots of hippies live there and stuff. It's very, very nice place. Yeah,
cool, very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I've always
Uh,
wondered like what it's like over there. It must be so cool because there you'd think there would be lots of little islands and stuff going on, like lots of cool
mm,
places where it's like because like in Saskatchewan, right? You can go to a small town and you can buy a house for 15,000 bucks and you can live.
wow.
But it's not that nice, So then like I wonder if there. I know actually because like there's some places I've been looking at near Revelstoke and stuff.
Mm.
Revelstoke. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and like so I know there's some small towns, but the property taxes are still a little nasty in BC. But like it'd be amazing to find a little island in Victoria area that would be like relatively cheap. Does that exist? Let's tell the people because I got a friend in Seattle who's like I can't afford to live there. Everybody says they can't afford to live anywhere. Everybody talks about the Vancouver real estate market. Tell us
Mm.
something different, please.
Uh, I'd have to make something up, unfortunately,
Oh
because that's the thing
no.
is it used to be just Vancouver was the place that was super expensive, and if you wanted to save some money, you'd move to Victoria or one of the islands, kind of thing. But it's all the
No.
same now too. Like it's like I've talked to my wife about like winning the lottery and moving back to Salt Spring, but it's like even then, like you'd have to win one of the bigger lotteries to get something nice and
Yeah.
comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm glad to hear you have a wife.
yeah, yeah.
I'm just kidding. Not everybody
Somewhat.
from Vancouver is not gay. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Yeah. So lots of hippies where you come from, hey?
yeah, yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. You know what's crazy is I would love to be. I consider myself a centrist. Sorry, we'll talk more about you in a second here.
Oh yeah, no worries. Oh yeah.
I consider myself a centrist and all
Hmm.
and that, but ideally, I would love to be more liberal. I would love to just be a utopianized liberal and just wish that everything could be beautiful and everything could be fine. And we should just change everything, modernize everything, fucking, renewables, all that kind of stuff. But then sometimes I'm like, I'm too pessimistic to think that that will work. So it pulls me back to the center. So like I'm a wannabe liberal, but I'm not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, fair enough. And like that's the thing about like living out here and growing up out here is that like I grew up very left wing, like everybody around me and all the culture, like my
Dude, my
writing, like
parents are gay. I grew up as left wing as you can be.
right, they actually are. Yeah, yeah. I forgot that about your background there. But that's the thing, and like out here, like there's the left wing, and then there's like the wrong wing. Like people just don't understand things to do with conservatives and their points of view and things like that. Which I understand some criticisms at the same time, but there's a certain point in my early adulthood where I realized it's like, oh no, these they both need each other, and it's a push and pull kind of situation where you need these different voices, and there's not the one side doesn't always have the answer kind of thing. So it's
100%.
nice that way.
100%.
So yeah, but it's also like hard to talk to people out here because it's they're just very set and there's like no, this is the right way to go about
It's
things and
interesting, right? It's like
not.
no matter
Yeah.
how far to the extreme you go either way, eventually you run into closed-mindedness. So it's like, anybody who wants to say, "Oh, everybody on the right wing is just dumb and they're closed-minded. Everybody on the left wing is this or that." You go too
Yeah,
far to one side either way, and you run into closed-mindedness, you run into ignorance.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, totally.
Okay, so yeah, so did you grow up in Victoria or?
No, on Salt Spring there. I grew up there. I lived
Oh,
there
okay.
until I
Sorry.
was
I
about.
mean, by Victoria, I
No,
mean
no.
kind of the whole area there. So you grew up
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of off the coast of Vancouver, eh?
yeah, yeah. I grew up there. Went to high school and everything, and after I finished high school, I went to Vancouver for a little bit. Actually, this connects with your question there about schooling and stuff too. I went to school for motion picture production, so I went to film school for a little bit at
Wow.
Capilano U, and I
Very
did one
cool.
year there. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and it was interesting. I just did the one year because it was one of the things where like it doesn't really help to have a degree. Like there's if you want to teach it, that's great, but like to get in the industry, you might as well just start in the industry. And so I did a
For
bit of
sure.
work there after I finished, and yeah, I lived there for a bit. Met my wife there. She was in the acting program, and we got together. And then like we were trying to find a place in Vancouver at a certain point, and we just couldn't find anything that was.
Wow. What
Um,
a fairy tale, man. That's amazing.
oh, like yeah, yeah,
Good for you.
yeah. But we moved back to Salt Spring for a bit. Then we decided to go back to school again. So we moved to Victoria, which is kind of a nice middle ground between Vancouver and Salt Spring kind of thing. And yeah,
Very cool. Very cool. So, to bring us back to kind of our main through line here. So, what are some of your favorite things to write? You say you just published a short
yeah,
story. That sounds awesome.
yeah.
What was the name of it? I'm not sure if you said the name, and maybe you can give me a
No, I didn't.
general theme. And then, like, what do you like to
Sure,
write
yeah.
most? Do you like to write stories, screenplays,
Mm.
jokes, or and give me a little bit of that.
Sure, yeah. So the name of the story is called Vermin Carnation, which is a play. It's a portmanteau of vermin and
What's a
reincarnation.
portmanteau?
It's when you combine two different phrases together to kind of create something like a play on words, but it's like yeah, it's like yeah,
Vermin
like
carnation. Vermin carnation.
yeah. So like
So
it's
it's
just
kind of
kind of
like you're
slamming
combining
two words
something
together.
evil like vermin with something carnation, which is good, like birth,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Because essentially, what happens in this story is it's about a guy who goes to a carnival and sees a psychic there, and without giving too much away, he basically finds out that his past life he was a lab rat or a lab mouse, I should say, actually, because in this case it was a
Oh,
mouse, and
it's like the Born Identity.
she. Oh, I guess so. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, no,
Or not really,
just
because it's
waking
not
up.
a past life, but sorry. Continue.
Yeah, yeah. In a more, yeah. So he was reincarnated into this current form from his previous life, where he was a mouse, and he was not just like any mouse. He was like a lab mouse who was being tested for LSD. They were doing LSD tests on them because there's
Oh,
a thing with LSD where, like, well, with any going back to your toxicology girlfriend there, with any substance, there's a thing called LD50, which is like when you try and figure out what's the lethal dose for a substance. So
yeah,
if you
yeah.
take a drug like even alcohol kind of thing, and you
Well, cinnamon.
give a
Have you ever
certain
heard of how low the
yeah, oh man,
LD50 is on cinnamon?
no, but I remember there was a kid who died from that doing
Yeah,
that
you eat a
challenge thing.
couple
Yeah,
tablespoons of cinnamon, you're fucking dead.
that's wild. Yeah. Oh, what a way to go out. Yeah.
No doubt.
Uh, but
Legendary.
basically, yeah, you give like you take 100 mice, give them a certain amount of a substance, and whatever kills more than 50 of them, that's the LD50. And they never found that for LSD. Like they kept giving mice more and more, kind of or whatever animal they were testing it on, and so they just kept giving them LSD, and they never really found the LD50 for it. So he was one of
Oh,
those mice who just was tripping out all the time. So it plays into the story in the end there and the conclusion kind of thing. But
cool.
yeah, it's a very very short story as well too. It's
Maybe
only
it's
about a
all
thousand
one big
words.
mouse dream, and the whole thing is just fake, and it's just a mouse having an acid trip, thinking he's a human. So,
Yeah.
what do you think? What do you think happens after you die?
Well, that actually really plays into my own philosophy because, like, I used to, when I was a kid, I used to worry that you would just disappear and you'd just be nothing, which is fine.
Me too. I used to
And
worry
some
about
people,
that a lot too.
hmm
Yeah.
but I also like, when I was very young, I would think I was like, maybe I was at speaking age kind of thing, but I was very young. I was probably around 2 or something like that. I woke up from a dream in a panic, and my mom talked to me, and she's telling me much later on that I was telling her about my previous life where I had fallen in the
Whoa.
water and I got tangled in a net, and I was trying to tell the people I was with before, like my family or whatever kind of thing,
Wow.
that I was okay and I was in a new place and things were good kind of thing. And I was being very specific with these very obscure names and things like that. So
That's so
I,
cool.
yeah, so that's always been kind of my idea that
Yeah, that's
if I had to
amazing, man. I think dreams are absolutely fucking crazy. Like, I
totally,
think
yeah.
it's a huge sign of like intelligence when you hear people that have like dreams like that, And then it's like,
Mm,
there is no doubt that that is shit from other lives. Like, there's no
mm,
fucking doubt. Like,
mm,
I've been actually having a lot of like, well, I smoke weed. Started smoking weed like when I was like 23, and I've been
mm.
doing it for a steady amount of years up until pretty much now. I'm more or less quitting. It fucked up my lungs a little bit, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
like they say, it does nothing. Fucked up my lungs. So, and I'm pretty clean with it.
Mm,
So, but what's been happening, what I've been finding is I've never really had much dreams in my life. But since I've had the lung issues, and they mostly happen at night, I'm getting less oxygen, something's going on. And I've been having lucid dreams like crazy.
oh really?
Like,
Wow.
isn't that crazy? Have you ever had a
Mm,
lucid dream where so you're in the dream, basically what qualifies it is that you're in it and then
mm,
you realize that you're in it and then you start taking control and you actually can do stuff in the dream. Have you
mm.
ever had that before?
I've had like where I've recognized that it's a dream and I start doing things, but then things start kind of falling apart and it doesn't
Oh
work the
yeah.
way I want it to, kind of thing.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
wife
yeah.
has had a lot of lucid dreams that exactly as you described, where you can take control and do whatever you want, kind of thing. And damn,
Oh,
I wish I
yeah.
had that.
Yo, it's like, oh my god, I got to rewatch Inception. But like
Yeah,
it's
great
it's
movie. Yeah.
so crazy, man. It's been starting to happen to me for some reason. Like I've had vivid dreams before where it's like, oh, it's super real, it feels real. And I've
Mm,
had lucid dreams where just like what you said where you notice for a second and then all of a sudden everything closes in on you and it ends. But then sometimes,
mm,
man, they don't end that quickly. I've been having them where I have control. I had this crazy one where I was in a big city and I noticed I was in a dream and I started to be able to fly and I was flying around the city and doing all kinds of crazy shit, seeing people from my entire life. That was what's
mm.
crazy too, is like
Wow.
you don't think you remember what everybody you've ever seen looks like until you're in a lucid dream and they're just there. And you're like, okay, I guess I still know what you look like because somehow I can construct it in this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's wild. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it's interesting, like even creative in terms of like creativity and stuff too. There's times where I'll be in kind of an in between state where I'm like half asleep, like if I had just woken up or something and I'm trying to get back to sleep, and like I'll have all these visuals of different things that are just like I'll imagine a TV or be dreaming of a TV or something, and I'll have all these different commercials that are hilarious and totally original.
Yeah.
And then when I wake up, I'm like, why can't I access that
Yeah.
when I'm just
Where
like
did they
trying
come
to? Kind of.
from? I know.
Yeah,
Where did they come
exactly.
from? It's so cool. It's amazing how much is in the
Mhm.
subconscious, hey?
Oh man,
Yeah.
yeah. There's so much. Yeah, David Lynch, the director, he talks about that a lot too, where he does a lot of what's known as transcendental meditation, and that's where he credits a lot of his very strange ideas and where
Oh
they
yeah.
come from and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Interesting. Yeah, it's like kind of like the Wim Hof method a little bit, hey?
yeah. In a sense,
Just
yeah,
over oxygenate your brain, breathe like crazy and then doze off and then you have crazy dreams. I don't know. I don't know
totally.
whether it's over oxygenation or under oxygenation which causes it now because
Yeah,
who knows, right?
yeah,
So, we were talking about your short story,
yeah.
Vermin
So
Carnation.
yeah, what I like to write about and things like that. Yeah. So originally, like I actually started. I wasn't like a writer in like high school and things like that. I remember when I was very young, I got really into Stephen King short stories and stuff, and I tried writing some fiction, but I just never really got any traction with it or really stuck to it, kind of thing. And the people around me when I was younger who were like writers who like wrote really good fiction, they just couldn't help themselves. They had to write and things like that. And I was never really like that. Like I could write, but it would take
Well,
a lot of effort and things
if I
like
could
that.
quickly interject, yeah, it's not always about how much you write. It is about
Mm,
the quality, right? I mean,
sure. Yeah.
fucking L. Ron Hubbard. He
Yeah.
wrote
Yeah.
he's
One of the most
written more
prolific ever.
fiction. He's
Yeah.
written more fiction than any writer that's ever existed, and he made
Yeah.
Scientology. So we
Yeah.
can't, and we're not going to call him a great writer, are we? I don't know.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know.
It depends who's listening. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So,
Yeah, but like I always thought that yeah, writers are people who couldn't help themselves, kind of thing, and so I never really pursued it. But there's a certain point in like 2000, I would say 2010 or 2011, I got really into mushrooms and just in general, like the psychedelic ones, of course, but like the nutrition of them. The what's that? Oh, nice. Yeah, yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. That is a
now we're banned off
perfectly
YouTube.
legal and yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'll cut that
Yeah,
out.
yeah. The blur it out. There you go. Yeah, no, I got really into mushrooms in general. Like, just there's so many different things about like medical applications of them, and just so many different things. And I was so excited about all this information I was getting that I started a mushroom blog where I wrote about all these different articles about
Is
wrote
that
these different
still up
articles.
online?
No, I took it down quite a while ago. I
Okay.
was there's a certain point where I was just like not happy with how I cited information and things like that, and I just never took the time to
Yeah,
redo
that's
it.
the thing that kind of always happens with kind of some of those drug art type things. It's like they can be profound, but then at a certain point, you do go, "Do I want to be that thing? Like, do I want to be
Mm,
represented by that?" Because
sure, yeah.
each drug sort of already has a flag bearer, so it's kind of hard to try to insert yourself into that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. No, totally. And so like I wrote a lot of when I first started writing, I wrote a lot of nonfiction stuff, and like my first I got my first publication in 2014, and that was like a personal essay about arbutus trees, which you guys don't have out there. Have you ever seen an arbutus tree?
No, what is that? I don't even know that word.
They're also known as madrona trees. They're beautiful trees. And this is why I wrote about them. They're my favorite kind of tree. They're extremely strong. They only grow on the west coast here. I think there's some in Japan, I think too, but there's something to do with like they only grow in areas where there's a certain amount of salt. I want to say in the soil. It's something to do with the climate of the area kind of thing. But they're beautiful. Uh, they're very different looking as well too. They're almost kind of like a eucalyptus tree or something. They're very smooth. They have this bark that peels off in like these little scrolls, like paper kind of thing. They're
Oh,
really
so it's like a
nice.
little paper factory. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kind of
Okay.
thing.
No,
Uh,
I see that now. You're talking about a tree, arbutus
mm,
tree. I
hmm
thought you were saying arbutus trees, like that was one whole word. I was like, oh, what's an arbutus tree?
Arbutus tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah,
My bad. My bad.
the practice of arbutusing. Yeah,
So
totally.
that's cool. So that you
Uh,
got published just for talking about that tree, hey?
yeah, yeah. Well, I
That
used
was
to climb trees
nonfiction.
when I was younger. Yeah, yeah. So it was kind of like a reflection of the tree, but like how I used to climb them a lot when I was a kid, and how, yeah. That anyway.
Yeah, I
But
love climbing trees, dude. That was a big part of my youth. I
mm,
I climb trees like crazy. There's something about
totally.
it that I just love. I don't know why.
Hmm.
Like I think it makes me feel like a monkey a little bit, but like,
Yeah.
dude, there is nothing better than climbing a tree or just hanging from a branch. It's like
Hmm.
it's like kind of flips the switch a little bit on grounding. It's like people are like, no, you got to be grounded. No, I'll just hang from a branch. I'll combine hanging and grounding. How about that?
Yeah, sounds good. A good combo. Yeah, for sure.
I love climbing trees, dude.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, dude, what's the highest you ever climbed in a tree? Do you think?
Oh man, like yeah, I remember being up in one. We used to go up to a place called Colchis Lake when I was younger, and I remember being up in one that was at least 30 feet. And it was like it was a pretty. It was just like a
Evergreen tree
what it
or
would be. Yeah, yeah. I think it was just one of the kind of firs or something out here, kind of thing.
cool?
But it was yeah, it was up there, and I was like swaying and stuff, and
Yeah, it starts to
like
sway when you get up that high. Hey,
yeah,
it's like, uh oh,
yeah,
no.
yeah.
Yeah. Now all
But
I
yeah,
can
there's
use
something
that.
about it too. Like so I
Yeah,
was gonna say, like being able to see so far too, like it's really cool to
it's
get up
pretty
to certain
cool.
areas where you can't really like you can access different parts of the forest and things like that. It's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And now all we can use that skill for is just like getting cats out of trees, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah,
I've done
exactly.
that recently. Not gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have
Oh,
cats?
I do. I have a cat. It's a hairless cat.
Nice.
It's a pretty cool cat. I used to be a
Oh
dog
yeah.
guy, but now
Hmm.
I just got a cat. I don't know.
Hmm.
See what it's like.
Yeah, I mainly grew up with cats and had one dog and stuff too. My wife was the opposite. She grew up with a lot of dogs
Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
while, but our cat passed away about 2 years ago, and
Oh
we just
yeah.
have the dog now, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just sometimes the hair from the cats gets me, so that's why I went with the
Oh my god.
hairless.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I did an allergy test. Really, there's another thing for your personal information gathering here, but I had an allergy test recently, and I found out that I was allergic to cats. And like I've grown up with cats my whole life, never really noticed it.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that'll handicap you growing up. You know,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
probably just
exactly. Yeah,
thought you were supposed to breathe like that. You just thought everybody's eyes were
yeah,
always itchy,
yeah,
and then you're like,
exactly.
oh fuck. Yeah. No, I hear you. I kind of think that like everybody's allergic to cats. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
it's like it just kind of because like it takes so much to be clean with cats, and
mm,
almost too much in a sense. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So the longer you
Oh,
have
just
them,
with the
the more you're
dandering.
just gonna
Yeah.
you're gonna get stuffy. Like so, I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. But
But yeah, like a
for the love exchange that you get from them, it might be worth it a little bit. It's like you're giving up
oh
a little
man,
bit of
yeah.
your breathing just for a little bit of love.
Totally. Yeah, we were at a friend's place for Halloween and they had a cat and I was just petting it like crazy and stuff. And I'm like, oh man, I miss this. We'll have them again in the future.
Yeah.
Allergies be damned kind of thing. So,
Yeah. I know a girl
yeah.
whose cat sneezed in her eye while they were laying together sleeping. The cat sneezed in her eye, and then she lost her eye. Now she just
Wow.
has one eye.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, for
Didn't.
real, dude.
Yeah, that's another thing to be terrified of. Wow. Yeah, I had a friend who got bit by a cat, and he had to go to the hospital
Yeah,
because
dude, they're
like,
big rats. They're big rats. You got to be
wow.
careful.
Oof.
Yeah. Oh,
Yikes.
so what else here? I don't know.
Oh yeah.
What else you want to talk about? My question list just closed on me. What?
Well,
What?
just going back to the yeah, like I wrote mainly nonfiction, and then I read I've encountered two different authors who were kind of in the same situation that I was in. Like one was Roald Dahl. Do you know of him? Like he
No,
wrote Willy
I'm not a
Wonka and the
big reader,
Chocolate.
so I won't be able to know any of the
Oh,
authors.
fair enough.
Really,
Well, you'd be familiar with like Roald Dahl was a British author who was mainly known for his children's books. He wrote Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, James and the Giant Peach, The Witches, a bunch of
okay.
different things. Very well known.
Well, if he's
Uh,
British, he's now my favorite author
oh yeah.
because I'm a total racist. What's your ethnicity?
I'm on my father's side. I'm mainly Scottish. That's where the Dawson, I guess, comes from.
Yeah.
On my mother's side, I'm Norwegian and a little bit of what we used to think was Coast Salish, but is actually Flathead Salish from Montana in the States. So a little bit
Oh
of
yeah.
First Nations as well too. But
Oh,
it's hard because
okay.
we don't have a lot of history about that that side of the family, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, that came up in a thing a little while ago,
Yeah,
and
that's interesting. That's the same as Lucas Welsh from the last podcast. He's a little bit Métis as well. So
oh,
do
really?
you
Well,
golf, or because if you're Scottish, you must have the bug for golf?
it's in the blood. Yeah, I do sometimes. Yeah. Last year, my brother got married, and we did a whole golfing trip. So I used to do it a lot when I was younger too. Just haven't really got out that much recently. That's for sure.
Ah, what a fun
Used to
game
play
that
a lot of
is.
mini golf. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
honestly, mini golf can really help with putting. Like
oh
when I
yeah,
mini
yeah,
golf, I take it seriously, and then I take it out on the course. I got to use those skills. I need every
yeah.
stroke I can get with the fucking guys I play with. God damn it, they're so good.
Totally. I kind of wish that like regular golf would have like the green would be like a mini golf course where it would have all these obstacles and everything.
Exactly,
That would
because
make
then
it
at
a
least
lot more interesting. Eh?
exactly. Then at least you can know where the challenge is. It's more frustrating when you putt and then thing just turns and it's like I didn't even see that. Why did it just
Yeah.
turn on me like that? I'd like it to
Yeah. And
just
if
be
you
a
could
loop,
bank off some,
a big metal
totally.
loop. Then I know where the challenge is. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. But mainly Roald Dahl was one of my favorite authors that I read at that point, and a guy named Haruki Murakami, who's a Japanese writer, and he wrote a book about writing that was really hitting the nail on the head for my situation at the time, where he was like talking about writing. He's like, I really like doing it, but I like having written rather than the writing process. But like, so like it was hard for him to write, but once he did it, it was really worth it, kind of thing. And that was
of
really
course.
helpful for me to kind of jump the
Yeah.
bridge over back into fiction, kind of thing. So I've been writing a lot of fiction ever since then, kind of thing. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like the harder the lock is to unlock, the more valuable it is. Like
yeah.
what's some of your writing process like? If you could just put together and not even what you if you want to give me what you do on average is fine too,
Mhm.
or like what's your perfect kind of a situation for all of that. Either one.
Well, I guess what I usually do, like it tends to like for ideas and stuff, like they come from all sorts of places. Like I still do to an extent, but I used to really like starting from a title. Like I'd come up with one, like just a few words that would, or just a single word that would be, oh, I'd love to see that at the beginning and of
Build
a
everything
story.
off of that one singular kind of idea. I can kind of see that,
Exactly.
especially with the cool title that you have for your short story.
Yeah, exactly. And oddly enough, that one didn't really come from that process, but that one actually just came about from a conversation I had with my wife where I was talking about LSD and how they never found the lethal dose for it and things like that. And we were talking about the poor mice that had to go through that. And I'm like,
No
oh, there's
doubt.
something there, kind of
Yeah.
thing. So
I used to have a
yeah.
buddy who was a chemist.
Oh
'Cause
yeah.
I'm an engineer myself, so I did a lot of
Mhm.
schooling, and
Mhm.
I met a lot of very interesting guys. And I knew this one guy. He was one of the smartest guys I think I've ever met. Um, and he used to make his own LSD, and he had a whole chart where he would keep track of what each one of them did and stuff like that. And it
Oh
was
wow.
pretty fucking wild. But yeah, that got out of hand eventually. And now
Oh yeah.
he's done with that. But yeah, I used to know a guy
Fair enough.
who would make his own LSD.
Wow. Wow, that's quite the process. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
no doubt.
but yeah, no, like I find that like I love to say that I'm one of those people who sit down and I do my 2 hours before lunch, and then after lunch I haven't gotten there yet, but I certainly recognize the value in that. But a lot of it is just usually starting with an idea and just trying to power through a first draft, like not thinking too much about editing at the first,
Yeah.
but
So
just
the
like trying to
idea
get it all.
motivates you. Because, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it takes, is it just takes something to get you to sit down and start. Like, for
Hmm.
a lot of people, too, it's like, it's whether it be a cigarette or some, that's the problem, too, is you want to try to separate it from substances. If you can somehow get yourself into that gear without the
Yeah.
substances, that's probably the goal, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like I found that there's certain points in my life where I would smoke a lot of weed as well, and like that wasn't really exactly helpful for writing. Like it might have helped with ideas and stuff, but like I'd read my writing the next day and it wouldn't make any sense. Like, oh, the room smelled like purple, and it's like that. Steve, come on, like that doesn't. There's nothing there. Like it's wow, that must have been so profound at the time, but it's just like no, that there's it just that doesn't mean anything. You got to get rid of that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. I've experienced that a little bit myself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah. But
Oh,
yeah, like I find that's the main thing. Like I've been trying to stick to in the last little while is just trying to get something on paper and then go back and go through it. I think that's the hardest thing is like once you have it there, you're kind of afraid of it because you don't. Yeah, it's like you want to make it good, but like it's such a process to go through it every time. So I tend to break things up in chunks. Like I just wrote a first draft for one that I'm excited to work on, and I was just like leaving it for too long, and then I'm like, okay, I'll break it up into little chunks, and I'll just work on those chunks
yeah.
across a couple of days, and I've been doing that lately, kind of thing. So,
Okay, so
but
you
I
kind
thought,
of, you just have a, you have a place that you go. Is it like a desk that you love,
oh yeah,
or
yeah.
so basically you just kind of wait and you wait for the feeling and then you go for it.
In a sense, yeah. Like I tend to do a lot of writing, just freehand. I find that's the nicest way. Like is all from home, and I work at a computer all day, and so
Yeah,
like I don't really. There's no. I'm not itching to get back on the same chair
yeah,
and do the same thing right on a
for sure.
separate computer kind of thing. But
And what
so
kind
I
of
find I
things
do.
inspire you the most to write? Sorry to interrupt. I hope I'm
No, not at
adding
all.
to what your thoughts are
No,
here.
no, this is perfect. Yeah.
What kind of things inspire you to write? Like, do you have any kids, or is there any substances involved? What do you do to get inspired to get at her?
No kids, and not really any substances at the moment. But
So just that idea.
yeah, I don't know. Like that's the thing is like there's sometimes where it's
What do you do
like
for
there's an
exercise? Because you seem like you're in pretty good shape.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, not a lot recently. Like I actually have a spine condition that causes a lot of back pain a lot of the time, and I've been trying to figure out some way. I do some kind of free weights and stuff like that. I
Oh
like to
yeah.
go. I've always been really into like cycling and things like that, but I haven't really done that recently just because my bikes are in a poor state at the moment, and I
Okay.
can't really trust the brakes on them. So I don't
Okay.
really want to go out on
Yeah.
out on them. But yeah, no, I like mainly just walking my dog and stuff lately, but trying to get back into things. I find that like I try and do like a good exercise and then I just pull something in my back. So
Yeah.
trying to
Fine
find things that
condition,
are
eh? You couldn't have
yeah.
picked a worse thing to have a condition with.
Yeah, thankfully it's a pretty minor case of it. Like I remember in my like early 20s I talked to randomly a chiropractor who I was on vacation and I got talking with this guy and he found out what condition I had. He's like, "Oh man, you got to start like you got to change your diet. You got to and because you're by the time the age I'm at now, he's like you're going to be your spine's going to be fused together. You're going to be in so much pain and all these different things." Turns out I have a very non-severe form of it, which is nice and things like that. So I haven't had to have a lot of interventions or medications and things like that.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah.
You ever tried yoga?
Yeah, no, I found even hot yoga was especially helpful, like because that would really
Yeah.
loosen things up. It's just, yeah, it's pricey these days,
Oh, that
unfortunately.
sucks,
And
man. That sucks big time. Thing is, I have my skepticism. I'm hearing what you're saying, but I don't trust a chiropractor. That's one of my
oh
things.
yeah,
So it's like,
well, and that's the thing too is like after a while, I'm like, why did I take that one guy's
yeah.
opinion so seriously, kind of thing? And it was just it wasn't even an appointment or anything like that. And I've actually like I had when I went back to school, I did a degree in anthropology, and part of that I had to take a
Oh,
bunch of
cool.
like
I
kind of
love
medical.
anthropology.
Yeah, it was well. That's like going back to your question about like going to school for writing. I originally was like when I was considering going back to school, I remember talking to my mom and asking her like, should I just go for a creative writing degree? And she's like, you're going to be doing a lot of writing, whatever it is. Like, so just choose something that matches your interests. And just because I was interested in mushrooms, but not in a scientific way, like I didn't really do much
Got to
science.
start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I was more interested in how people use mushrooms and things like that, and different
Yeah.
plants and things like that,
Yeah.
than
One
like
small
ethnobotany.
dumb comment I would like to add to that is, yeah, I remember when in my life, I couldn't believe, I thought nobody did drugs. Like when I was young, literally up until I was 23, I didn't drink, I didn't do anything. And then I started to come to a realization about how many people around me were using drugs at all times, whether they be
Mhm.
pills, alcohol,
Yeah,
other things. It's wild that drugs make the world go round in such a way that's so huge.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I feel you there. Like, especially growing up on Salt Spring, which was very insulated. Like, there was a lot of like dark underbellies in
of course.
even that small town that like I
Yeah.
didn't really like. There's a big coke problem on Salt Spring, unfortunately, and I remember
Mhm.
just like never done it myself, but like I remember just seeing the consequences of it on people around me and things like that, and
Yeah.
just never knew it was there because it's very subtle and like
Yeah.
hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right? It's crazy. It's just people trying to get through the day. No, I've never done
Hmm.
cocaine myself either. Well, one time I had a girl offer it to me, but I think she gave me. I think it was sugar. I think I just ended up having a sugar high, and then that was it. No, I've never done it. It's a scary drug though.
Yeah.
I've been around a lot of
Yeah.
people who do it, and it's interesting. It's like it makes them think they're so damn fucking
Yeah.
interesting, and they will not shut up. And it's like that's the worst part of it, you know? It's like
Yeah.
if you could somehow microdose that. Well, that's what the people do who like have you seen the leaves that people put in their face? Like
Oh
those
yeah. Well,
African
that
voodoo guys?
yeah, the coca leaves are very different, like in terms of
Bingo.
like they're
Exactly.
actually not Oh, but yeah, when you refine it, yeah, with like I never want to try cocaine or heroin because like I know they're gonna be good. I know they're gonna like they're cheat codes basically for your brain. Like that's not a good way to go about it. And like I I haven't really struggled with addiction to the extent of a lot of other people, but at the same time, I know that I would just go for it. Like there's not like I had to quit playing some video games lately just because I
Yeah,
was sinking so much time kind of thing because like oh it's fun and I'll spend like 5 or 6 hours and like well there's my day
yeah,
gone and I feel like crap now and things like that. But
for
it's like
sure. For
yeah,
sure.
I just
Totally, man.
don't want to ever touch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure. Yeah, addictions are so weird. Dude, I can't believe this. We've almost done an hour. This has been amazing.
Oh
What
wow,
an
yeah,
awesome
nice.
podcast this has been. Fucking effortless, dude.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff.
So,
But yeah, I guess that what I was bringing up just about my spine to close that
yeah.
out.
Yes.
I did a great course when I was at university there for it was like osteology, like bone studies, and then forensic osteology, where it was like how bones can be damaged in all the different ways and things like that. And the guy who was teaching that was a doctor and surgeon who's a fantastic guy, and he actually had the same condition I had and stuff. So I had a lot of great conversations with him. And it was the opposite of the chiropractor, where he was able to say like, no,
Yeah.
it's like you have a
You
really
can always work your way out of it, you know? Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
like that I just wanted to say I want to say one thing about all of this.
Sure. Hmm.
Um so, okay, so to preface it, I'm saying this as I'm a dumbass. I don't know anything about conditions, any of that kind of stuff. I'm saying this from a perspective of like a person. I've been very healthy. I'm very healthy. I've been healthy my whole. If I can just break, I am healthy physically
No,
in
that's
my
great. Yeah.
life. So
Hmm.
I can do is tell you my perspectives on what I do and like from a mindset thing and so forth. So because I understand conditions are a real thing, things can get exacerbated to such a point where there is no climbing out, and I
Hmm.
get that, but it doesn't mean that you can never give up on the mindset that you can try to climb out because trying to
Mm.
climb out will still be better for you than not trying to climb
Yeah.
out. So
Totally.
like so all I would say to you is that like yeah, don't think of like, oh, I've got a condition and I can't do this and I can't do that. Just do as
Hmm.
much as you can every
Yeah.
day. Like hot yoga, especially. Like I do that every day. I play hockey regularly. Like cardio
Nice.
is key. I would say cardio is key and
Mm.
stretching. You know, like
Totally.
weightlifting, none of that stuff matters really, especially for a spine for like you, man. Like just do some yoga, dude. Like and I hope
Oh yeah.
I hope the best for you. You never give up on climbing out of that, you know? Like
Totally. No, I agree. And I would say that like some weights is good just to like build, especially like building a core is really important for spine health, things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But no, I feel you there too. Like I've been reading this book recently. That's a guy who is presenting a solution to back pain, and he was basically like talking about how a lot of the time there's these cases where people will get in some sort of accident or something where they will injure themselves. They'll get like say like whiplash
Yeah.
from a car accident or something like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
and that will heal, but they'll still have the same pain for like years later,
Yeah.
and that doesn't make any like medical sense. It like the whiplash is healed. It's still, why are you
Yeah.
still having that pain?
Yeah.
And
Well,
a lot of them are psychological. Like we should clarify that yeah, like if you have cancer or MS or something like that, that's not something you could think yourself out of. But at the same time, there are a lot of them that it's like, well, you're stuck in this loop. And he
yeah.
seems to identify. I'm not too far in the book, but he seems to be identifying like the fear of the pain and accommodating that pain ahead of time as something that kind of just feeds back into the cycle, so that if you're
Exactly.
avoiding these things that would challenge it, then you're just kind of
Yeah.
yielding ground to the pain kind
For
of thing in a
sure.
different way,
For
and it's
sure.
yeah,
Yeah, you got to
continuing it. So
fight the
it's
pain. Exactly. 100%
mhm,
agree. It's like a vicious cycle. Yeah.
yeah,
And then when it comes to, yeah, like I would say in terms of for you, I would
mm,
say no loading. Like I wouldn't load it at all, in my opinion. I would say like nothing more than body weight stuff would probably be what you'd want to do until you get it to a good place. Like
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Just laying on your belly, watching some TV,
Hmm.
just doing Supermans. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? And then just stretching that thing out. That's what I would try. So what's the condition called?
ankylosing spondylitis. It's a mouthful, but there's a it's basically like an autoimmune disease where my body is thinking that there's an issue in certain areas,
Oh
and
yeah,
it's sending an immune response to fight it, kind of thing. There's been connections to do with like gut bacteria and things like that, but nothing really solid. I remember trying diets way back when I was younger that just didn't really work, where
yeah. Maybe you
you're
just
cutting out.
sneezed too much while you had your cats around.
Yeah, exactly.
Threw your
That's
back out,
God,
seized up
God
some
damn
vertebrae with a sneeze.
it.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
what else we got here, man? I got lots of stuff on this list. What do you want to go into next? Keep telling me about yourself. If you got something you want to jump into yourself. Uh,
Yeah, well, I guess so. Like just in terms of different formats of stuff, like like you're asking about different things that I've written,
yes.
and what I like to write is I find that like yeah, like going to film school, like I've written screenplays and things like that. I've also like I'm a musician. I play guitar and bass and
Oh, cool.
piano to an extent as well too. And I've written songs. I remember right when COVID hit, I read a nice book by John Fogerty from Credence, like Credence Clearwater Revival,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
and
The
it
band.
was
Yeah.
about him. Yeah, yeah, and he was the sole songwriter for that band and stuff, and he basically controlled everything, and it was about his songwriting process. So that got me really into songwriting. I also
Yeah.
got really into country music at the time,
Would you say you're
and so
more into music or into comedy? And then just next question after that would be,
mm,
who's your favorite comedian? Like, what got you
oh man, yeah,
kind of being more on the leaning towards the comedy side, like how you are? What do you tell me about that?
yeah. Oh man, well that's the thing. Like it's hard to decide because like music has always been a huge part of my life. And I've always liked doing it. Is I haven't really created a lot of it. Like I've written a lot of songs and stuff, and I used to play in bands when I was in high school and things like that, and songs with a friend after high school as well too, which was fun and things like. And I still continue it as well. And that's the nice thing about having these different kind of forms of is I take something like a certain topic or a certain story or something, and I'll try it in different things. Like I even tried this short story as a stand-up bit about a year and a half ago, and it worked pretty well, just talking about LSD and mice and things like that, and them not finding the LD50. So it's fun to try things and plug them into different things and see how they fit.
Yeah.
So I
For
find that
me,
even with like,
yeah, if I could just
what?
interject real quick. For me, because, well, I'm a pessimist deeply sometimes, but for me, I always find these things that I dislike about each different art. And
Oh,
podcasting
yeah.
somehow has been one that I've been able to not fully discover
Interesting.
yet. But so it's like, so for music, for me, I go, God damn, this is repetitive. I feel like
Hmm.
I'm feeding into a moment and I'm giving too much value to a moment rather than living in the present, looking to the future. And then there's comedy, and I'm like, this is recited. I don't like that this is recited and practiced and fake,
Mm.
because I like improv a lot. So that's been my
Yeah.
problem with as I work my way through the arts, because I'm not a big artsy guy, but yet I've been
Mm.
trying to kind of dip my toes into it a little bit, and I'm working my way through it.
Yeah.
But I keep finding a thing I dislike about each one, except for podcasting.
Totally. Well, to touch on like how you're describing comedy there too, with like it being kind of recited too. Like that's something that kept me from doing comedy for a long time. Is
Yeah,
that
it
I
feels
thought they were
gross.
I thought they were making it up every time they went up and things like
Yeah.
that, and they didn't have an act that they put together. And like, uh, I
But
always
that's
like,
not to discount the superpower that is
oh, sure.
molded doing stand up, right? Because there are aspects
Oh
of it
man, yeah,
that
yeah.
are they they do come up with, and the crowd work and stuff, which is a beautiful thing.
Sure. Well, and then like going to your question about my favorite comedian, like I would
Yes.
say like it's hard to answer that definitively because like the first name that comes to mind is Mark. Not
Oh, sorry,
exactly.
my video skipped out for a second there. I didn't hear you. Can you say
No
that
worries.
name again?
For sure. Yeah. So the first name that comes to mind is Mark Normand.
Oh, hell
You know
yeah.
him? Yeah, yeah. But I wouldn't even say for his stand-up specials. Like I just find him to be so funny off the cuff. Like when he's on podcasts, whether it's Joe Rogan or his podcast Tuesdays with Stories with Joe List is so funny.
Yeah,
But they're just riffing on each other kind of thing, and I
exactly.
really like that. And
Yeah,
there's certain comedians where I like them, like even Tony Hinchcliffe from Kill Tony. Like
yeah,
his stand-ups are really good, but I just love his jokes that he does on the podcast or on other
yeah,
podcasts. They're so funny, kind of things like. And there's other ones where I'm like, their
yeah,
stand up is really good. Like I always really loved Mitch Hedberg when I was younger. I always loved
yeah.
George Carlin and Eddie Izzard and
One
things like
liners,
that.
one liners. Yeah,
I don't know. Like there's a lot of different ones because like a Shane Gillis's special was fantastic. Like
yeah,
Beautiful Dogs was one of my favorites, and
yeah.
um, yeah, there's so
Which
many.
muscle is more important? You know, that's where because
Mm,
your love for Mark Norman versus your love for Gillis. Because
yeah,
I don't know where my judgment is on that as to which muscle is more important. That muscle that you talked about with Mark and being able to improv those beautiful things,
hmm
or the recited thing. Which one is
yeah,
better? Which one do you like more? If you had to choose, like in your future, let's say from here on the next 4 years, which one do you
yeah.
think you're going to work at more, podcasting or stand up?
Oh well, that's like yeah. I'd say if I had to choose between the two, it would be more the off the cuffs thing. That's where my main strength is. I find that like doing stand up, I found it difficult because like I would get tired of bits really quickly, my own bits. And like part of getting momentum as a stand up is doing the same bits and refining them like slowly. But you have to go to the same open mics where you see the same comics
Yeah,
and tell them the same jokes. And
yeah,
there's a part of me that really feels like self-critical about that, and I've had to remind myself, like, no, that's what they do, that's you
yeah,
have to keep doing that. But like
yeah,
I'm like, no, they've heard this joke, oh no. And like because I like novelty, I like changing things, and that's even like with talking about these different kind of formats like music and writing and stand-up comedy is like I go through different phases. And when I was younger I would like worry like, oh no, I can't focus on one thing. And then as I got older I'm like, oh, I like these different things, but I kind of go through cycles where I'll come back to different ones in more pronounced ways and things like that. But
yeah,
yeah, like I find that like I've tried to really focus more lately on having an act and trying jokes and not sounding so robotic and like just
yeah,
rehearsed and things like that because
for
that's
sure.
so like
It's
it's
tough. Well, you know what else
good
is
though.
tough? It's tough being a skinny white male. That's one of the hardest parts. I feel like me and you have the same issue in that regard because both of us kind of look like lawyers from like the wild, wild west. So it's like when we
Yeah,
go up there and
I
try
say
to
yeah
like,
totally.
hey, I'm funny. It's like people are like, no, I feel like you're here to discuss my loan payment. Like, so
Yeah,
we each have that issue.
well,
We both kind of look scary.
totally. And like I like a lot of like like a lot of political humor as well too. Like I'm a big fan of Jimmy Dore
Me too.
and
Oh,
like
absolutely. Religious
and
humor,
like
political humor. Do you like Bill Maher?
yeah, yeah, I loved Bill Maher for a long time. I found
Do
that
you
he's
think he's
kind
a
of
fake liberal now?
I don't know. He just seems to be caught up in a lot of weird things that are going against his what he's been going for a long time. Like I
Yeah.
remember he had a thing recently where he was like trying to explain something to do with Israel Palestine and
Yeah, you should
about
stay
land
out of
use, and
that
he's
one. Yeah,
yeah,
that's one of those.
exactly. We won't get into that one, but like
Sorry, continue.
he was saying like, well, it's in a book called the Bible, as if like that justified things. Like,
Yeah,
Bill, you
yeah,
had a whole documentary about this. Like, so I found he's kind of just lost his way. I
for
saw some
sure.
clips of him
That's a
recently where he was
great
talking about
that's a great point. That's a
yeah,
really severe contradiction. Absolutely, to use the Bible
yeah,
as some sort of a defense or something like that when he's made
yeah, an authority
documentaries
kind of
like Religious, where
yeah,
it's so I completely agree 100%.
But
And
I used to watch real time all the time, like
me
well,
too. Yeah.
whenever it's on, obviously, but like because I loved a lot of the people he would have on. I loved that
Yeah.
he would have different people from different perspectives battling it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so many different ideas and things like that, and it was just entertaining in lots of different ways. But
For sure.
yeah, no, like and just like about political humor too. Like I find that like you're saying with being a skinny white guy, it's like I don't really do that in my act. I haven't really tried that because it's not going to work out here. Like people are very set in their ways out here about certain ideas about different things, and if you even venture into that, it's not going to be good. It's not a free place to
Yeah.
discuss those ideas.
Well, for sure. Well, I think that you can never right now with the way that the texture is of crowds and things right now. I feel like the big bullseye that you go for now, and this is all we have left, right? And I believe Gillis does it quite a bit, and but
Mm,
it's fully like kind of turning on yourself, kind of, and making
mm,
fun of the idea that you're a racist, like just being like I'm a racist or I'm privileged. I went back to his bit where yeah COVID happened and I went back to Pennsylvania to live with my family because I have privilege, and
mm.
I used it like that.
Yeah.
I think that that's the way you do it. Is you really kind of all we can do is like a fat Mexican comedian would do. You all we can do is lean into what we have, and
Mm,
and I don't think it's gone yet. I don't think it's dead yet. Especially with like let's say with Trump winning, I think that we might be in a whole new era of that where it might be regaining its strength a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah,
Hopefully that's the case. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Did you see McGregor is a rapist now?
I just saw that. Yeah. I don't know really anything about that, but yeah. Were you a fan of McGregor?
No, I mean kinda. I like MMA.
Yeah, he's like,
That came out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I just saw it on my phone. I didn't even hear about this trial happening. And then
same.
all of
Yeah.
a
I just
sudden,
saw a headline. Yeah.
it's like, what? How did that?
Yeah.
And then he's walking into court with his wife and his mom there, and it's like, okay, this must what like why wouldn't his wife leave him if this is legitimate? Well, what's going on
Oh
here?
man. Oh, Cosby's wife stuck with him the whole time too. There's a
True.
yeah.
He's out of
I
jail
read it.
now. That's I've been saying this for years. I think that he should start a podcast. Having him on a podcast
All
might blow
right.
up the internet.
Yeah, because there was something to do with the trial not following a
Yeah.
certain regulations. They declared it a
Well,
mistrial or something like
Well,
that.
it's hard with those kind of charges. It's always hard. If you pay
Yeah.
enough to lawyers, you can always get out of those. It's wild.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
actually was just talking about this on a podcast a couple episodes back with how interesting it is. It's tough. It's not interesting. It's just tough because ultimately any case like that will eventually rely on an element of hearsay, which is
Mm.
very flimsy when it comes to those types of things. So it's hard to put a
Yeah.
guy in jail for hearsay. So
Totally. Yeah.
yep.
Yeah. No, like I like Connor. Like I well, I don't know with this new information for sure, but like I was always kind of mixed on him in different. Like I guess I liked him as a fighter. He was fantastic. Like there's a certain
Yeah.
clip I remember seeing from a fight where there's just like a punch that was coming so close that he just didn't
Oh,
react at all.
oh
It was
yeah, that
just
counterpunch that he did there. Yeah. Well, especially
yeah,
because I
exactly.
believe he's Scottish or something or Irish, so that
Irish, yeah,
he's literally you. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. So Ben, again, sorry to bring you back to it.
No, no.
Uh, who? So would you say Mitch Hedberg is your favorite, or who do you got?
I've definitely gone through. Oh yeah, that's a hard one. If I had to pick one, yeah, that's hard. Yeah, I'd have to think about that. But when I was younger, like I remember seeing Mitch Hedberg. I remember recording a VHS way back in the day of Just for Laughs, and it had Mitch Hedberg on it. And I remember just being obsessed with him. I bought his like CDs and things like that back in
He
the
got
day and
so
stuff.
taken advantage of by like Comedy Central and stuff. It's really sad to see
Oh man,
the
yeah,
amount of money that he was left with.
yeah,
I feel like if some of that hadn't been happening, he might have done a little bit more okay. Like in today's world where, the Hawk Tuah girl can make a whole life off of something. It's like, yeah, he should have been left with more. It's too bad.
oh man, yeah,
It's
yeah. He'd
sad to
do well in
see.
like Cameo or something too. Like he'd
Yeah.
make a killing off Cameo.
Yeah. That's the saddest thing to see with comedians because it's you have to give so much of yourself and for comedy. And if comedians as they age, if you lose sight of that for a second, or you forget that the whole shtick is, hey, you were like putting yourself down. If you forget
Mm.
that and then you look at where you are practically, it can get all crisscrossed. And I think that's why there's the suicide rate is so high in the comedy world. You know, like
Yeah, well,
Robin
even like
Williams was a crazy one to me.
Yeah, he also had a condition, like a severe form of
Yeah,
uh,
more with the conditions, right?
Alzheimer's. Well, it was like Lewy body, which is a very intense form of Alzheimer's, where you also have like hallucinations and things like that. And his outlook, or
Yeah,
the his next few years wouldn't be good if they weren't
yeah.
already bad, kind of
He
thing.
also went to
Unfortunately.
Epstein Island, so maybe he had some freaking skeletons in the closet, you know?
Oh, who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, like talking about suicide with like comics and stuff. One of my favorites, I'd say, is Theo
Yeah.
Vaughn.
It's amazing he's
But I
still alive. Yeah.
Well, I just worry about him sometimes because he gets so like he's a very like deep person and things like that, and you can see him getting down on. Especially his last appearance on Joe Rogan was like he just kept saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. Like I'm just having a
Yeah.
day," kind of thing. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
somebody check on Theo. I hope he,
Yeah. I
knock on
think it's a
wood.
bit of a shtick. I think he's doing all right nowadays. Hopefully anyway. But
Oh,
he probably
yeah,
just needs a lady. Yeah. So
yeah,
would
yeah.
you
He wants
say
a family, that's for sure.
yeah? So would you say Joe List is in your up there? You like him because he does Mark
Yeah.
Tuesdays.
Oh man.
Have you
Yeah.
seen their Have you seen his movie with Louis? Because real quick before I
No.
we
Yeah.
talk about that, my
Hmm.
favorites probably are
Yeah. Please.
Louis C.K.
Oh
and
man. Yeah.
in terms of a podcast realm, probably Adam Friedland. Do you know Adam Friedland?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 So podcast versus those are old guys. In terms of young guys, probably Adam Ray is probably one of my favorite
Oh
younger
yeah.
guys.
Doctor Phil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
And did you see that special yet on Netflix that he made?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
pretty good.
watched it.
Hey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It was
anyway,
funny.
back to it. So that's my ones there. So have
Those
you
are great
seen?
shoot picks too. Yeah.
Thanks. Have you seen Joe List's movie with that he made with Louis C.K.?
No, but yeah, I'd really like to. But no, I'm a big fan of Louis as well. Like, and
Okay.
there's a lot of great comedians in that movie too. Have you seen it?
Oh yeah, hell yeah, dude.
Nice. I'll have
I
to check it
watched
out.
all
Yeah.
of it. I ordered all the parts. I'm like, I buy all his website. Like he gives you a flat
Mm,
fee if you want to just take everything off his website. But yeah, I got that movie and I got the extra features and where
nice.
they do a directorial thing where they watch the movie and Louis and somebody else, Joe, is there and they talk while they watch the movie and they
Oh,
say a
like a
bunch of shit.
commentary kind of
Yeah,
thing. Yeah.
exactly. I
Nice.
have it on hard copy on my computer, by the way. Like when you get his stuff, you have it. So
Mm.
if you want, I can
Oh,
send
cool.
you a Dropbox invite so you can
Nice. Yeah. Yeah.
watch it right away.
Um. Yeah. No. Like Louis is such a huge. Yeah. That's the thing is like when you get asked about your favorite comedians, like as soon as you forget all the big like Louis is so. Oh man. Like as a filmmaker too, like the show Louis is like one of my favorite TV series of all time. So it's just
It's
so well
amazing.
made and so
Yeah. And
interesting
he
and
did it all
so
himself.
funny.
He's wearing all
Yeah,
the hats
editing
while
and
he's
everything.
doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah, yeah,
He's
and
like Ben Affleck in The Town, you know.
yeah,
You ever seen that
yeah,
movie? Yeah.
totally.
Yeah,
No, actually, this one where
yeah,
they wear those masks or
yeah, he
something, right?
directed it. He was the main actor. He was everything. So
Wow.
yeah, their movie's called 4th of July. It's
Yeah.
super interesting. It's a family drama, which are family comedy
Mm,
drama, which is are my favorite. Um,
mhm.
yeah,
That's great. Yeah, no, like I love Louis. I think that and Joe List as well too. Like Joe List, he had a bit in his stand up about like going uh on a ride on his own at like a theme park or something, and he
oh
just
yeah,
went and they're like, oh, we'll put you with these boys, and they offered him a photo
yeah.
afterwards, and they're like, yeah, just one of me and the boys. Always remember that one. Yeah, it's a good.
You can actually do a
Well,
good Joe List impression. That was
me and the boys. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like when my wife quite enjoys the Tuesdays with stories podcast
yeah,
as well
that's
too,
key.
and
That's
like
key that the lady likes the podcast too that you're
oh
watching.
man, yeah, she's great that way. Yeah, yeah. Um, and like it's funny just the way they talk, where there's just like yeah, queef, like up my asshole kind of thing.
Yeah,
They have all these like little things, and when we first started listening, we would just kind of repeat those things, and like we'd be around other people, and they'd be like,
yeah.
what is this kind of thing?" So
That's
it
like
gets
your
in your
mom's
brain.
house a little bit with it. It's so taboo.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Oh man. Yeah. Well, like I work online, like our company's all remote and everything. And I remember having a colleague who we connected because we both really loved your mom's house, but like he would send me messages and say like, "Hey Hitler," and
yeah,
and all these different things. I'm like,
yeah,
"Hey man, this is written down in our thing. Like
yeah.
they can check this. Just it's out of
It's gonna
context.
be on
It
a
seems a
list
little
somewhere.
strange." Yeah, yeah. So calm it down a bit. But no, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, your mom's house is great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
love
good
those
to have
guys.
like phrases and inside jokes with a podcast for sure.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
just looking
totally.
up a movie there while you were talking. Sorry if you
Mm.
noticed.
No, no.
Have you ever seen? It's got that guy who ended up being in Star Wars in it. It's called "This Is Where I Leave You." Jason Bateman, and they basically somebody in their family dies, and
Yeah,
they all sit
yeah, that's
shiva, or whatever that is, some
totally.
Jewish thing, and they all sit shiva
Mhm.
during this mourning period, and it's a really really good one.
Yeah, I like that movie. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Adam Driver.
yes, that's his name. Yeah,
Yeah, because like even like I think Timothy Oliphant is in that, and he plays a
yes,
character. And there's a bunch of people in it. Tina Fey, I think, was in it as
yep,
well.
exactly.
Yeah,
Tons
yeah.
of
Oh, it's
huge.
really good.
Yeah, that was like right at the brink of where they were all getting huge too. Like
Yeah. Mm,
especially Adam Driver and Tina Fey. Like that was right where they were really breaking through. But
yeah,
yeah, such a good movie.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Okay,
I
man.
saw that
Well,
we.
oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
let's. I think maybe we've got ourselves an episode here. Well, if it's
Sounds
okay with
good.
you,
Yeah.
maybe we'll wrap it up and we can continue to talk, and it can be a something for the Patreon there or something some extra,
Sure. Sounds good.
and we can take a break too, like a pee break or whatever. So
Sounds good.
anyway, dude, so go and find his short story online somewhere.
Mhm.
Vermin Carnation.
Yeah, I'll
You
post
can
it in my link there or
yeah,
my bio.
he'll send it to me, and I'll put it in the bio on this YouTube video, whatever we're on here. Go check out that short story. Go check out his comedy or his Instagram. Steve Dawson writes, and yeah, thanks a lot for your time today, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I had such a good time today. You are so awesome to talk to, and yeah, we're gonna do this again. This has been amazing. So,
Oh, right back at you. Thanks for
all
having
right,
me.
okay, that's Canadian Talk, episode 104 out.